Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Uphill Battle. Uh, Time step Thursday, April 30th. Been a while, and we're going to kind of diverge from our usual point by point discussion, and actually because so much, so many things have been going on in the last shit, 72 hours.
Yeah.
Uh, Last week. First of all, I like to start off a little lighthearted and kind of feed it into what we want to discuss with politics. How was your trip, son?
uh, it was nice. The weather was nice. I went to Barcelona for a couple of days. It was really nice. I enjoyed it. Me and my girlfriend Emily went. It was nice. We were only there for like 2 whole days, but yeah, we enjoyed everything. We walked around a lot, ate some good food. Uh,
That's what I wanted to hear about the food. I wanted to
yeah,
hear
yeah,
about the food for sure.
yeah, yeah. It was awesome. Yeah, really did. I enjoyed it. 10 out of 10. But good to be back. A lot to discuss because, like you said, a lot did happen um, over the last, not just over the last 72 hours, definitely since the last time that we got together.
Mm, yeah.
And so, yeah, just a lot of stuff to discuss.
Well, on that point of you going, now this is basically the first time that you traveled abroad since the incursion, a lot of different things. My question was that I think will be interesting. How do Americans get treated abroad right now? I mean, I know it varies from place to place that you go, but did how was your experience?
In terms of like being an American and stuff, it was fine. Just like here and there, it'd be someone like, oh, you're American, like Donald Trump, right? So like,
Right.
yeah, yeah, but that was about it. There wasn't any, I just didn't feel any like animosity or anything like that towards us for being away. Especially because I mean, like we were in Barcelona. Not to say like it's like ultra touristy, but like like they want to welcome as many people as they can, because they want the money. So, it's
Right.
yeah. So it was good. I didn't feel like, yeah, I didn't feel like,
Yeah, I wasn't thinking
especially for
about that, but
there. Yeah.
yeah, but I was like more or less thinking like more or less nowadays Americans get questioned about like what's going on with your country and this, that, and other. And usually I just noticed like in a lot of cases, you know, we are unwelcomed in a lot of different spots sometimes. That's so I was just curious to see how
Yeah.
did you feel any tension or like I just it just seems weird to me like at a certain point like why do you have to actually answer for administration when well they probably look at you and it's like well you don't
Yeah.
have nothing to do with it you know
Yeah.
what I
Exactly.
mean. So let's get into it. I mean, uh, what's been grinding your gears? I know you've been like waiting to get in front of a microphone with everything that's been going on because it's just so much stuff. So what do you
Yeah.
want to start off with?
Um, Man, dang. Yeah, yeah. There is a couple of topics I definitely want to touch on. I think the first one, because it kind of goes off of something that we briefly talked about. And I think it was in our last show, but we talked about like AI and like data centers. Just briefly, I
Yeah,
think we had touched on it.
yeah,
But up in Maine, um, the governor Janet Mills, she vetoed a bill that would have been the first in the nation ban on data centers. And what it was is it was like a moratorium of 18 months, and it actually passed. It passed both chambers of in the state legislature, and it got to her desk, and she was weighing for a couple of days on whether to sign the bill, let the bill just come law without her even touching it, or to veto it. And she ultimately decided that she was going to veto it because it didn't carve out like the allowance of one data center project that was like kind of already greenlit. So because of that, she was like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to support it. And it would have brought in a bunch of jobs to the town that the data center was going to be built in, and that was one of the towns that got wiped out after one of its main like job resources. It was a paper mill after it closed down a couple of years ago. But everyone or most people in the state, obviously in the state legislature, so they support it. But um, they supported the bill. So for the governor to go ahead and veto it, it's like, what's the point of even of doing it? If you're a state representative that supported that, and she actually ended up. She was also running for the Senate up in Maine. She's running against a progressive Grant Plattner, and actually today she decided to suspend her campaign, so she's no longer running for governor as well. And what she cited was that she didn't have basically enough money. That she just came out right and said like she was unable to support. Gain enough money to continue her campaign. And Grant Plattner, he's been raking in a lot of money from small dollar donors. So yeah, just something interesting that's going on, and it's just crazy to say that you know a bill can get that far and still and ultimately get vetoed, and that's coming off of the hills of, like we mentioned a couple of weeks ago. I think it was in Indiana where they passed that, or the a lot of people were against the data centers, and they ended up shooting up that council member's house, and he ultimately still supported that bill of it passing through. So it's just wild that happened, and yeah, these AI corporations and these companies, they're out of control, and it's up to our elected officials to rein it in. And the fact that we can't do it it's troubling.
On that point, is she a Republican or a Democrat
She
up in there?
she's a Democrat, and she was Chuck Schumer's pick to run against Susan Collins up in Maine. But Grant Plattner,
Okay.
he's the progressive challenger. So he ultimately, and Schumer, after Janet Mills suspended her campaign this morning, Schumer came out and actually endorsed um, Grant Plattner. So now we have that. So he's a serious contender to Susan Collins. So there's a real good possibility that Maine could flip. Um, you know, for the
Blue.
Democrats. Yeah,
Yeah, but I wouldn't trust her if she was a Schumer pick. That means she was actually
yeah.
um she's a corporate dim. Now, is it a plus or minus that they now we are anti data centers though. So is this a and then when they say it's create we know the sham when they say it's creating jobs.
Ultimately, it was construction jobs. Ultimately, it was going to
Okay.
be construction jobs. Yeah.
But
So
once it's up and running,
it's a data center. So all you need is people
yeah,
that maintenance and
right,
repairs. Yeah.
right. And to run up your utility bills and use up your water,
Yep.
which is
Exactly.
perfect right there in Maine because you got the Atlantic Ocean right there or whatever. But um so what did she actually do a good thing by vetoing it? I mean,
No, ultimately, no. So for that one town, yes, but for the precedent that this would have set, this would have been the first like enacted ban on AI, the first like AI regulation that there would have been
oh,
in the country. Yes, so that's
oh,
why
okay, I was
it would have
confused.
been so
Okay.
big. Yeah, that's why it would have been so important. And and it doesn't make any sense again for her if she's running for Senate. You had the ability to do this, and you just let it fall. Like it just doesn't make any sense. So again, and then she suspended her campaign this morning. So
She
uh,
must be
yeah, she's
some
a
billionaire got to her. So
exactly,
that's the
and
only thing I can think
yeah,
of.
and she's term limited, so her
Right.
time is coming up anyway. So It just doesn't make any sense. But yeah,
Well, one of the things that I mean, it's so maddening to me. Where regulation is just a foul word in this country. And in other countries throughout Europe and throughout the world, regulation, even in China and different, they regulate things to make things better for people. They do. One of the real problems with the belief and the actual execution of capitalism and the quote unquote the free market is that totally when you allow basically the inmates to run the asylum and create all the rules because they don't have rules, then they run shot all over the top of the people, and they carve out these things that are actually just going to succeed for them. Um, I, I want our listeners to understand when they talk about creating jobs, it's very minimal. And just like what you're saying, like okay, people that's you get through after construction to actually maintain, and you might get the town up this town up and running because it was a paper mill, and now it's become a data center. But the cost, and we already see that the cost of these data centers are just appalling. To we are feeling it day one in our pocket.
yeah,
Who in the world why when you look at your utility bill, your supply charges is higher than your actual usage rate.
hmm
So it's they're charging you abundance. Like my light bill like tripled. Well, my utility bill over the winter tripled because of the heat and usage. And a lot of it has to do. They don't know how much energy is used to actually run these data centers, just so you can get these cute little fake ass videos and literally just make your societies dumber
hmm
because everybody is using AI and Google modes to look up everything, to write their papers, to give you these answers. So whereas though you don't have any type of, you know, critical thinking to the point where as though uh, MAGA, we already, this is the whole point about where Trump's, I love a low IQ voter. I mean, this is
yeah.
to break off that AI. Do you see the fake AI MAGA influencers that they have that people are making hundreds of $1,000s off of?
Of course they are.
Um, because they have these women. This one guy, it's a guy in India named Sam. He's a doctor. I mean, well, he's studying to be a doctor. He created Emily Hart and made her a MAGA influencer. This well-built white female that wears MAGA gear and red, white, and blue, and she gets thousands of dollars a month from subscribers because these people are too dumb to know that this is a bot. This is an AI creation, and it's so. When I was talking to my girlfriend the other day when we were sitting around and I'm cruising uh YouTube or whatever, looking at videos, and then and I just told her I was like, I hate commercials now. And I said, because I don't know if this person is real or not. It's to that point.
Yeah.
when somebody, I'm like, I'm looking for a person's imperfections to make sure that they're a real person when they're talking, and are they showing they're being shown.
Hmm.
It it's it's just mind boggling that it has gotten to that point. But one of the current things that I wanted to was the Supreme Court's decision yesterday that carved out another key factor of the Voters' Right Act. Literally, for the last 45 years to 50 years, this is what I want. Give me a minute, son. Um,
Yeah.
this is what I want. This is what I want people to understand. There is a stark difference between Republicans and Democrats when it comes to legislation. Republicans are for the long haul. Democrats look for the low hanging fruit that can get something done and can affect you right now. It's going to get you something right now. And whereas the Republicans, when they have something in their sights, they are willing to go the long game. This dismantling of the Voters' Rights Act by that man, and what man you may say, by John Roberts, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. This has been his mission since he clerked and was in the Reagan administration in the 80s. Also, what I want many of you people to understand when we talk about the South and we talk about the KKK and about white supremacy when it comes to legislation and in politics, the KKK is not just in the South. John Roberts is from New York. Many people do. The KKK expanded to like Indiana and Missouri. White supremacy is a system that's been put in place in America. But this is something that he has been against the Voters' Rights Act since its existence and has been working to dismantle it. That's one of the reasons why when he was placed as the Chief Justice, when he was merely maybe 50 years old, he knew he would reign for close to 30 years as Chief Justice and can steer the court and wait out his time so till the point where as though he can have a conservative majority. And this is what happened. It was a 6-3 vote with, and one of the things that was stated by Justice Alito is that it was no need for the Voters' Rights Act anymore because we have come so far. Not even to mention, they basically re engineered one of their own. They didn't go by precedent. They basically changed a ruling, going against a ruling that they made just several years ago.
Hmm.
What for people don't understand, this was a Louisiana case about the Louisiana maps. And Louisiana brought this to point because people did not want to be it. Basically, it was a black majority district. It was additional black majority district was going to be drawn so they can get a second representation. The issue was not the white people in that district did not have a problem per se, with actually having a black representation for them, they had an issue that they would be represented by a Democrat because the way the district was drawn, it was going to be a lean Democrat district. So the Supreme Court said it had nothing to do with race, although because it said it had to do with politics.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have a problem with somebody if they are in a different party. Throwing out the fact that you still have to vote, and whoever got the amount of votes would actually be the representation.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a slap in the face because whenever you go and try to get a little fairer and get more representation, they bounce it back and change the rule. Not even to mention this could actually reverberate across the country because now people are throwing stuff in action, try to redraw maps. Even like uh, Marsha Blackburn, the senator in Tennessee, came out right away and said Tennessee need to redraw their maps so they can get rid of the one Democratic representative that they have in their state. But all you hear is about what Virginia's doing
Yeah.
when they're not drawing maps without people voting on it. Texas did it without voting. Missouri did it without voting. Louisiana is trying to do it without putting it to the people. At the end of the day, the crazy thing is it can be. I mean, I'm gonna let you add on before I say what can be done about it.
Yeah, that this is also one of the topics that I wanted to touch on. I think it's like you said, it's just he's rolling back, or not just Roberts, but the entire court. They're just rolling back, piece by piece, provisions of the voting rights bill, and then it's just and it's wild. And we had in our was it our first episode we had talked about the Save Act, and the federal attempt to make it harder to vote. The federal attempt to, for not just people of color, but also for women, for other minority groups. Honestly, for people in rural areas as well. It's just and it's just crazy. I think that the craziest thing about this ruling is that he says you need to prove intent, that you intended to discriminate, or you intended to discriminate against minorities and drawing the districts that you are. So basically, he's saying politicians need to put in writing, we want to make it harder for black people in this district to vote. That's what it's saying. Not since the passage of the 1965 Voting Rights Act has it ever been in law that specifically for these people we're going to do this. What are we doing in 2026? That you need to come right out and say, yes, we're racist. Yes, we want to make it harder for this one group to vote, for this one group to participate in our democracy. It's lunacy, and it's absolutely crazy. And like you said, you're going to get into potentially what can we do about this. But I mean, Democrats, where are we at? Where are you at? Elected Democrats, where are you at?
The craziest thing is the Voters' Rights Act has not been passed. It was passed in 22, and then because of the Philip by the House, unanimously by the House, to reauthorize. Then the John Lewis Act, it was held up in the Senate by the filibuster,
Mm-hmm.
and At the time, the Democrats didn't have the guts to actually blow up the filibuster. Um, and the filibuster is not constitutional. I know people probably hear a lot. The issue with the filibuster, with basically it's a 60 vote threshold, so you can end debate, so then you can move on with a vote. In some cases, it helps legislation because it slows down the process and makes it harder for a bill to become law. But the last authorization of the Voters' Right Act in 2006, when George W. Bush was the president, 20 years ago. Now, I'm just going to explain to you how times have changed so bad. It was it was reauthorized by unanimous in the House and the Senate. Anyone that looks like me, looks like you, that is part of any marginalized community cannot, in good faith, actually should to, to wholeheartedly say they are part of. If you are part of the Republican Party and you are part of a marginalized community, you are a coon, you are a sellout. As Malcolm X said, you are a sellout to your race, you are a sellout to your people, and you should be excommunicated because maybe you doing okay, and this is the whole fallback on capitalism, but your people are being disenfranchised completely. And if one of us is down, all of us are down. And the fact is, the only way you can come out of this is by flipping the House and the Senate and actually having more progressive minded people that's willing to actually blow up the filibuster
Mhm.
and pass the Voting Rights Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and actually the Freedom to Vote Act combined. And the Freedom to Vote Act, just so you know, it's a gerrymandering. It makes gerrymandering illegal. How can you want to work in a system? For the last 10 years, every year, the Democratic Party puts forth a bill to outlaw gerrymandering and to make everywhere in 50 states in America an independent bipartisan committee draw the map. People don't want that. Republicans don't want that. One, because it's a minority party. And I'm not talking about minority as in black or brown. It's a minority party is where as though there are more registered Democrats in this country than Republicans. But they sample the vote of of Democrats and make it harder for them to vote. That's why when it comes to election day, Republicans don't want a big turnout. They want a lower turnout. They want it to rain. They don't want your grandmother to go vote. They move ballot places. They make it convenient in their Republican districts. That's why literally because of it. But if these laws are enacted, then they override whatever there will be no Supreme Court decision because it'll be law and it'll be legal for everybody to vote. And these gerrymandering and now what would happen is now your candidates would actually have to win your vote. there will be. It would now be. It would not be anymore that well. This state, this so that
that way. Now it would have to be a 50 state strategy. You would have to go and try to win votes from people in Idaho and in Iowa and Missouri and in Maine and New Jersey. You would actually have to go and not just say, I'm not going to touch those states because there's no chance of me winning. I'm not, we're not going to focus the money on these certain districts because there's no chance for my party to win there. This is all manifested. They cheated in order to get these seats. Ruth Bader Ginsburg should have retired. David Smith, a Georgia representative, 80, died in office last week.
Yes.
He was running for re-election. And they brought up the fact that, hey, health issues, what's going on? He is the 5th representative to die in office in the last 3 years. Because, I'm sorry, these people are too old.
Yeah.
And he was in government for over 50 years, was in his safe district for over 30 years. And then he did a vote, and then he died like a day or two later. This is 80-year-old presidents, 80-year-old representatives, 84-year-old party leaders. They are out of touch.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I believe in: term limits for everybody. To serve your people is not a career job. It's get in, get out. And if it was, that's what I love about one of the things about Virginia with the governor. 4 years. That's it. Not even 2 terms, 1 term.
Yep.
Because guess what? If you don't have to worry about re-election, you just have to do the agenda that got you voted in. Good, bad, or indifferent, for whatever. But whatever agenda got you voted in, you daggone can get it. You get it done. That's why a lot of times when it comes to Virginia, it sways back from Republican and Democrat with the governors. But it's like, okay, you don't have to worry about your next election. Just do what the people put you in there to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when it comes to the House, I think you should only be able to serve 12 years, which is six terms, because it's every 2 years. When it comes to the Senate, I think you should only be able to daggone 3 terms, 18 years. I actually probably think 2 terms, 12, because it's with governors and when it comes to presidents, 2 terms, 8. So I'm thinking 12 years. It's you get time for you getting a pension, you start to move on. But I mean that's one of my just pet peeves. But the only way you can get out of this with the voters right, and obviously this is the whole nother way, because this is the first time ever that we've been talking about maps without a census. The census is maps are usually drawn every 10 years. We're doing a mid-draw every 5 years, and all because that person that's in the White House doesn't want to go to jail, doesn't want to get impeached.
Pretty much.
I need daggone seats so the party can stay in power. Why do you think daggone over 35 Republicans are retiring or just leaving? They don't want no part of this shit,
Yeah.
but they too scared to just come out and say it. The only ones that say it is the big neck that like
Thomas
Tillis.
Massey and Tom
Yeah.
Tilt. Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. But
Go
yeah,
ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, you're good. Like you mentioned, it's 2026. The fact that we're still fighting, you know, disenfranchisement, it's just wild. It's absolutely crazy. And on the topic, it's just because, like, again, the Republicans, they're a minority party. Actually crazy, and something that I just don't understand is, especially for people like the really ultra conservatives, the libertarians that really don't believe in government, or like a really small government. Man, what are you in power for? What are you in power for then? If you don't believe in the government, what are you doing there? Like, I don't know. Would you want someone would an atheist lead a prayer at a church? No. So what are you doing in government if you don't actually believe and you don't actually want to do anything, and with that kind of power, except for limit what the government can do? That doesn't make any sense. But again, the Republicans just want power. That's why that they continue to gerrymander. That's why, you know, the court continues to support it. That's why the Congress continues to be quiet and silent, and slow to act on these kind of things. It's because they want to keep this power, and to the point of like the representatives dying in office, and just the age of our representatives, and the fact that people just don't want to give up power. It's exactly that. It's just, once you get to that kind of a level of power and connections, and you feel like, I guess, like a sense of celebrity or something, and you just don't want to cede that. You don't want to give that up, and it's absolutely gross. Like you mentioned, 80 years old. What are you still doing? Dianne Feinstein. What were you doing still in office?
What was she? What was she? 92. She was like
Yes,
92 something.
and for years, people were calling for her to. And this isn't to bash her specifically, because this is a problem just with a lot of with both parties, but a lot of members of Congress. It's just refusing to give up power, even when you're like, you know, you're clearly losing your mental capabilities. And like you mentioned, like, it's just wild that you're getting into the 80-year-olds and stuff. And you know, Bernie Sanders, he's not young, but you know, at least he's active. He's constantly out and moving and doing things, and you know, and actually wanting to, you know, he's acting like what old people should be, just worried about what's going to happen for the younger generations. What kind of world, what kind of country, what kind of economy, what kind of social climate, what kind of legacy, what are we leaving for them? What kind of chance and opportunity are we leaving for them? And a lot of members of Congress, they just don't have that. They're just out for themselves. They refuse to give up power. And like you mentioned, there should be term limits. There's term limits on presidents. There's term limits on governors. There should be term limits on Congress members, on members of the Senate, and for sure on the courts.
I'm muted. Definitely on the court, because for one, they are not voted on by us. All they need is 51 senators to approve them.
Mhm.
And then they have a lifetime appointment. A lifetime appointment. You can't tell me that. I mean, the craziest thing is they trying to force between Alito and Thomas, because they both, like, I think 76, 75 or whatever.
Mhm.
They wanted to try to make sure they get them out before Trump term is over, so they can put some other young people in there or whatever. Because, and the issue is, that's why they're trying to keep the Senate the way it is, so they can get those 51 votes to get somebody
Mhm.
confirmed. That's another reason why it needs to be flipped. And actually, right now, it's stating like possibly with 4 pickup. The Democrats have to keep all their seats now, and then flip 4. and it's very possible for him to flip 4. But the issue that I have with that, and you already know, is Fetterman's a fucking wild card.
Yeah, he's based. Yeah,
He's basically a Republican. He's the new Joe Manchin.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's probably not gonna switch to Republican. Never probably, I doubt it. But I wouldn't be surprised if he goes independent and when he runs for re-election because he's continuously.
He's going to get primary. He's going to get primary.
Oh, he for sure. But he's gonna get primary by moderates. By moderates, not even just progressive, but he's going to get primary by moderates, and they're going to have a lot of support, like Connor Lambs of the world and stuff. Like, yeah, for sure, maybe even a Shapiro.
I was thinking about Shapiro, because I don't know if he could actually run for president. I don't believe he can just because he's so pro-Israel.
And that, yeah, especially to win a Democratic nomination in this kind of climate, no, for definitely not.
But he's very popular in Pennsylvania, though. But that's why I'm saying nationwide. I'm talking about his presidential thoughts. No, but he's very popular in Pennsylvania.
For sure, yeah. So there's definitely a path there if he wants to take that, unless he tries to run in this next presidential election, and then maybe he falls short, becomes a VP. Who knows? Who knows?
I don't. He's very pro-Israel. Not saying that's not saying much, but I mean,
it's not going to stop him from wanting to run, and he's going to get, and that's the kind of thing with this kind of conversations. But he's going to get the money from AIPAC and from these other organizations, the dark money organizations that are supported and back in Israel. So I wouldn't be surprised if he runs. He could run. It's very clear that Gavin Newsom's going to run. Kamala might even be running again. So I wouldn't be. Who knows? But back to the conversation though. But yeah, Fetterman, you simply can't trust him. So you need to win as many seats as you can.
You know who fucked us on this? When we talk about this voters' right, it was Manchin and Sinema and Kirsten. They're the two Democrats.
Yeah.
Sinema. You see what she got? You see the hot water she's in now, dude.
With what?
Oh, that's the gossip page. Oh yeah, she's been messing with some type of married man, somebody that was in her security detail. Yeah, all that done hit the fan this week too. Yeah, yeah. The wife actually texted her back, "Are you having an affair with my husband?" And on his phone, she was under KS. That was under name. And he talked about, "I miss you so much," and this, that, and the other. Yeah, somebody that was on her security detail.
Wow, ain't that something?
Yeah. But let's move on because we don't do gossip. But that was just one of those things. What else did you have on your agenda?
Also kind of so allude back to something that I covered a couple of episodes ago, with the partial shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security. Just was it yesterday or today? They passed today. The House finally passed the bill that the Senate passed way before the Easter break, when Congress adjourned for the Easter break, and they finally passed to fund ICE and the rest of DHS without ICE and Customs and Border Patrol funding. So the Senate is finally undertaking their reconciliation bill. So they're starting to craft that and work on that. And they're expecting that to be about $70 billion so that they can fund ICE and CBP specifically for at least the next 3 years. So that's going to be reconciliation. It's going to be a party line vote. So it's going to pass. So they're going to get this money. So ICE will continue and all the tactics and the maneuvers that Donald Trump wants his agency to do. They're going to be able to do it. They're going to get the funding for it. But yeah, the House today, they finally passed the bill to fund the rest of DHS besides ICE and CBP. So I just wanted to touch on that because we had talked about that a couple of episodes ago.
But that was actually a loss for the
Yeah,
Republicans in the speaker.
yeah, yeah.
Mike Johnson is just
He didn't want.
speaker in name. He's
Yeah,
speaker in name. Period. That's
yeah.
it.
Hmm.
It's fractured because some of his hardline conservatives did not want to pass the bill with just only, but they couldn't do anything because the Democrats were going to vote for it.
Hmm.
So they're going to actually have to carve out, just like they did with the big fucked up bill on with reconciliation, and do it on around party line vote. So at the end of the day, all the blood is going to be on their hands.
Yeah,
And so literally it's actually a victory, because they're going to have to come up with the money on their own with reconciliation, which is fine, because you knew, because the issue was, the executive order that he signed was going to stop paying TSA today.
yeah. So they were gonna miss their checks. Yep.
Um, and this is going to flow into, I'm pretty sure, what another topic you want to talk about. This also is to fund Secret Service, because they're under the Secret Service, and then the rest, the DHS. So Secret Service is going to get paid, even though they are doing a horrible job. Um,
And
oh,
seemingly have been
oh,
for years. For like, and again, for everyone's disagreements with Donald Trump, it's very odd. This like the security lapses that have been coming up numerous times, and you know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so I'm not even going to get into those kind of conversations when I do, like when we ultimately do touch on what happened at the Correspondence Center the other day. But it is very very odd that Secret Service isn't looking like the elite tactical unit that they should be.
my point on that is that ultimately, Doge cut, when you get rid of the people, what people need to understand, the government runs because it's full-time, lifelong government employees, including in the Secret Service. In every sector, there are people that have been from. It doesn't matter what administration it was. It is. It doesn't matter who they may vote for or how they lean. They do their job. They take their job seriously and their responsibility. That's why in a lot of cases, when a different administration came in, certain department heads still stayed in place because they did their job for the country. It didn't matter who was in office at the time. By dismantling and by putting loyalists in place, do you know who the head of the Secret Service is now? Because okay, I didn't either, because you shouldn't know. Because it's secret. It's, they just do their job. It's not from, but the woman who was in charge of the Secret Service when um, Trump had the original Butler staff
Yes.
food, she
Yeah.
resigned.
Yeah.
The
Shortly after.
person that is in charge of the Secret Service now is the man that was holding Trump at the Butler rally, and he was his Secret Service on his detail. He is now the man that actually is the head of Secret Service. You can't even MAGA throughout. You were out on vacation, but everything that's been going on for the last 4 or 5 days is people coming into conspiracy that shooting was fake, that
Yeah.
was staged. This situation with this black man who purchased he was staying at the hotel,
Yep.
so he would have had to book that hotel 6 months to 12 months in advance because of the uh correspondence dinner.
Hmm.
And you're telling me I'm going to run into it. You got covered. You don't have to go. But my thing is this: looking into everything and reading everything. I said this man was coming to a dinner to possibly do an assassination attempt to a dinner that this man has never showed up to.
Hmm.
The first 5 years he's president, he's never showed up to this dinner. He didn't actually confirm that he was actually going to come until last month. And one of the reasons he confirmed to come is because guess what? They didn't have a comedian like they usually do. They had a mentor because he cannot deal with his feelings being hurt and people making jokes about him. And what did they run up and wind up doing at the end? This is a whole big ploy to talk about a $400 million ballroom, which,
That's
hold
crazy.
on, which the correspondence dinner would not be at the ballroom. It's never at the White House. It's never been. It's always at a hotel because the it's no. It doesn't mean the president doesn't have to show up for it to go on. Obviously, he didn't go for the first 5 times years he was president. So why did he go now? Why? How did this man run past through security? Did you think? And and where did this manifest come from? This is a person that never has been on. He wasn't online. He wasn't outspoken against anything. This is
Yeah.
all. This is a ploy to avoid the fact that this country has been entangled with Iran for 60 days. The UAB is broke over. A report came out today that this is the worst decrease of barrels of oil, over 8.5% of oil that's ever been done when it's not been a depression.
Yeah.
Gas prices are through the roof. They estimate they're going to be at the rate that we're at right now that there'll be an average gas price of $6 by the 4th of July because holiday season the prices go up anyway. It's plenty of places in California it's nearly $8 a gas. But this is the man that said your gas prices is going to go down, your eggs is going to go down, there will be no more new wars. Day one.
And you
And
got
this
all
is
of
all
it.
and this is all because what? You allowed your racism and your hatred for a black woman to oversee your own happiness. This is why black people ain't out there. We ain't in these streets. This is your reckoning. Because guess what? We've been surviving for 400 years like this. when believing that our government was against us and thriving. It's your time. It's your time to come to the reckoning and fix this shit. But y'all don't know how to do that. Y'all don't know nothing about revolutions. Y'all don't know nothing about that because you've been complicit your entire life. Anybody that sit there and say they don't believe in white supremacy, they even these liberals and like, oh, you complicit because it actually helps you. You doing woe is me. It's been a year, yo. Been 400 for us. And don't sit there and tell me y'all always bring up this because guess what? You know why? Because it's never been rectified. None of this is never reparations have never been put towards the black man. Period. And you might sit there. I'm gonna go off on a little tangent. I'm sorry, son, but the fact of the matter is, people often say, "I didn't own slaves. I ain't had nothing to do with my people." It's not about you. It's about the government. Government. What did they do? They cut a check to Japanese Americans because they had them in the internment camp. Germany rectified the Holocaust. It's never been even stated in this country. They reneged on 40 acres and a mule. They stopped Reconstruction after because another administration came in, and then they put in Jim Crow. The bottom line is, the fact of the matter is, this country has never rectified the fact of the treason of the Confederacy. All of those Confederate soldiers, leaders, they should have been hung. They should have been shot. There should not be any daggone statues and memorabilia up. They could be in a museum to understand the history, but the fact of the matter, if they would have daggone did the Confederacy, treated the Confederacy like the treasonous bastards that they were, many of these things that we're dealing with in America would not be as such. Why are there still Confederate flags floating? And don't give me my Southern heritage when it's Confederate flags in Missouri and Indiana. They weren't part of the fucking Confederacy. This country is a white supremacist, Christian nationalist based country. That's what they want. That's what they believe in. So the highly qualified black woman does not succeed the idiot bankruptcy 34 count adjudicated rapist. And too many of y'all, I'm saying y'all because some of y'all might be listening, are too dumb to actually understand that. Because what happened to your $5,000 Doge check?
Yeah.
Huh? Where's it at? Where you guess what? Supreme Court shot down those tariffs as being illegal, and who's getting a refund? The company, not
that
you.
raised their prices.
They got the money from you. Best Buy got that money from you, and now they about to get a refund check from the government too. But y'all sit there and say y'all don't want these corporations to pay tax because they job created. When I was growing up, it was illegal to have monopoly. But when it comes to the media, when it comes to these television stations and radio stations and print media that still exists barely, they're owned by a handful of companies. You can't trust anything you see on you got in order to actually you got to go to the independent journalist. You got to go to somebody that's on YouTube. They got their own channel. You got to go to the Midas Touch. You got to see high hip news. You know, things like you got to come to podcasts like this. Just going to that's not bought and paid for by somebody. I'm sorry, I got off on, but that's it's one of those things. It just it just irks me. But what else you got? Because we trying to keep this in a tight 90 today.
No, yeah, but actually, so the ballroom and the correspondence dinner is actually something I wanted to touch on. So going back to that again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I could for this one, like just when you think about everything in totality of it, like uh, just especially like you look at the guy, he's pretty smart dude, you know, like he went to a really good school. He went to Caltech. He, you know, he had I forgot what he was actually doing, like what his profession was, but you know, he it seemed to be a smart individual, and
They said he was a
he made
teacher. He
yeah
was a
he said
teacher. Yeah.
that sounds right. Yeah, and he made it was a makeshift gun, so like he made it. So just you're thinking about that portion of it, and then just everything that goes into it. Um, Again, everything from what the press secretary had said right before the correspondence dinner. She had made a comment, something about like he's going to take some shots tonight. That the president was, and then you know, there's some people saying that there were just conversations amongst people where it was like, hey, you know, like something could happen, so you know, like keep your head on the swivel or whatever the case is. But the fact that directly after this, Lindsey Graham, I think one of the senators from Alabama, I'm blanking on her name, Kate Britt, was Kate, not Katie Britt, um, something like I'm blanking on it, but from the senator from Alabama, and a couple of the members of Congress came out and said, well, we need $400 million to fund this ballroom that Trump needs. And it's just so grotesque that they want $400 million for a gold-plated ballroom to have Grace Gatsby-style parties while you struggle. While again, gas prices are up because of this war. While grocery prices are up, even though he said that he was going to decrease them and bring them down. While education costs are up, housing costs are up, the cost of everyday living, anything you need to live, the cost it costs more today than it did before. But your wages aren't up, so it's harder for you to keep up. And they want to have grand parties at the people's house, gold plated, with a whole nice get up. And again, like you said, the correspondence dinner would never even be hosted there. So to say this is to try to sell this as a reason to fund the ballroom, it doesn't make any sense. Because again, if you had the ballroom, it still could have happened. So from that standpoint, I don't like it, and also because we were told numerous times by Trump himself, it's going to be privately funded. It's $400 million is going to be privately funded, just from people that want the White House to have a really nice ballroom. Who would these people be that would be funding that? And what are you doing in return for that? Just like that $400 million jet that that Qatar gave them. What was that last year? Why would they do that? And it's not just gifted to America. It's not gifted to the American president. It was gifted to Donald Trump, and he said he's going to take that when he's gone, and it's going to serve in be in like his presidential library. No, no, he's not. A $400 million jet, and why did they give it to him? Again, things like this, they just the most corrupt president that there's been, and that's to say there's been a lot of corruption, obviously within politics, but And it's just so blatant with this guy. And the fact that he continues to the fact that he continues to get away with all of this, and some people just don't bat an eye at it. It's just crazy. It's absolute lunacy. So from that standpoint of trying to use this to fund the ballroom, I don't like it. And then the one that's really gross is they're trying to use this to say, oh, the Democrats calls this because of their rhetoric. So you need to keep Republicans in power in November because we're the grown-ups in the room who we're not going to use rhetoric like call the president a threat to democracy. We're not going to use rhetoric like saying he's bad for America. Apparently that's something that eggs on this kind of violence and these kind of behaviors for people against the president. What is Dana Bash doing asking Representative, Jeremy Raskin on CNN about, well, do you think like you should turn down the rhetoric after this? Do you think you had any hand basically in fomenting the like violence against the president? And he was like, why, like, what have I said? Like, what, like, why would I feel some kind of way about it? And because he said that he was bad for America, that Trump was bad for America. Trump has said that people on the left and Democrats are vermin, the enemy within, called them traitors. He's called them radicals, called them dangerous. He's called them evil, all these different kind of things. And yet that's perfectly fine. But we want to come out about rhetoric. Melania Trump releasing a tweet saying Jimmy Kimmel basically should be canceled. ABC needs to, in which the FCC, they are looking at ABC's licenses right now, trying to get basically Jimmy Kimmel taken off the air. Melania coming out saying, oh, Jimmy Kimmel, like, basically helped cause this kind of, like, again, violence and hatred towards the president because of the joke he made right before saying, basically, like, Melania looks like a widow. So, like, it just doesn't make sense. Not when your husband, and one of her big thing is, like, anti-bullying. That's, like, one of her big campaigns. When your husband is the largest bully that there is in this country, every single day he's talking about somebody. And again, this is coming off of the heels of Robert Mueller died, what, about a month ago? And what did he say? Good riddance. He said, I'm glad he's dead. That's that when Rob Rainier died, was murdered, and his wife, they were murdered a couple of months ago, sent out a long Truth Social post. Now, he wasn't a fan of mine. He had nothing but bad things to say about me. Basically, as soon as, right after this man was murdered. Just nasty rhetoric. And yet we're all supposed to, oh my gosh, what are we doing? Why are we being so mean to this guy? Why we need to watch the rhetoric? We need to tone down the rhetoric. The rhetoric, it's not high enough. I feel like elected Democrats, they're not speaking out enough against what this administration is doing, what Donald Trump is doing. It's kind of like they're getting tired on like constantly responding to the crazy things that he said. Again, this is also coming off of the heels of him going on Truth Social and saying, I am going to end an entire civilization. That's nasty. It's nasty and it's gross. So I didn't like this situation for what the Republicans, with Donald Trump, what they're trying to make it, and even like it was people on CNN, Dana Bash, even who's the other guy? Jake Tapper, the other CNN, one of the other CNN anchors. He had retweeted a couple of tweets, basically saying like the Democrats need to tone down the rhetoric and that they have a hand and these kind of like violent acts against Republicans, and that's not the case. It's not the case. And for you to try to scapegoat Democrats as a whole for the reason for this to be happening, it's misguided, and honestly, it's an embarrassment. And it's embarrassment. And that's why people need to stop simply like relying on legacy media or on cable television, specifically Fox News and what's about to be CNN, because they're corporate owned. So what you're hearing is what they want you to hear. You're not getting the full story. You should watch those programs to know what's going on and hear what they have to say about it. But you need to tune into independent media. You need to tune in. You need to read, the newspapers, actually read articles from independent journalists, people who are actually on the ground around not just the country, but internationally, so that you're aware of like what's going on. And again, it's just gross. I don't like at all like the situation, and it's not. I don't think it's going to help the Republicans in the midterms really at all. So even them using this situation to try to be like, okay, like you should be able to trust us because like we're the adults in the room, and like we're not gonna, we wouldn't do this, we wouldn't cause this kind of pain to like Democrats or whatever the case is. No, I don't think that Americans are gonna fall for that. I think that their messed up economy. I think them getting us into this war, and then just in general, just the images coming out of these ICE raids and these kidnappings. Um, I don't think that's going to help them at all in the midterms. But again, this situation absolutely, absolutely wild, and it's just crazy that Donald Trump continues to find himself, you know, like this.
To your point, when he did the interview with Nora O'Donnell, he attacked her. When she basically read a quote from the manifesto, and he's like, "I knew you were going to read that. I'm not a rapist. I'm not a pedophile." And she said, "Oh, you thought he was talking about you when he said this?"
Hmm.
And he basically, one of the things is he always attacks a woman. That shows his true character.
Hmm.
He he never has the strength to get big with a man. He always attacks a woman. That's his true character, and that's the true character of MAGA. It's plenty. It's plenty of MAGA men and these conservative men talking about, no, their women are leaving them. They deal with loneliness and this, that, and other, because they don't respect women. There's That's the ultimate thing. They don't respect women, and many women are seeing it.
Hmm.
Republicans and old white men want to control your body. One of the things that we didn't get a chance to discuss because we didn't do a show last week, that I wanted to bring up real quickly. Did you see how they're pushing? It was a study.
That between the ages of 15 and 19, the teen pregnancy rate has dropped 70% in the last 20 years. And that CPAC, a speaker said that this has to change. That women need to stop worrying about getting a career, and they need to concentrate on getting married and have as many kids, even if you can't afford them. This is a atrocity, because now your generation is actually being smart and not bringing unwanted children and into this world. People are putting off having families till they're more established and they have the money to support them. But they
Hmm.
don't want that. Just like Charlie Kirk was a college dropout, and he's been actually preaching, going around to colleges before he was that college is a scam. You don't need to go to college. But every one of those MFers that are in the administration have degrees from Harvard and Yale and in Princeton, and these they're educated, but they don't want you to be educated. do the people, do you see? They don't want you to be the better yourselves. They want you to be. They want you to clock in. They want you to be part of the system. They want you to be able to maneuver the thing. Because I was watching a video earlier today. I sent it to you about billionaires. We don't need billionaires. Billionaires need us. So when people always get afraid, just like that shit they was pushing when if Madami got in there, that the billionaires will run away from and just leave. And it's
Yeah.
for what? For what? They'll go to the little countryside and be by them damn selves, but they need people. They need workers. They need a society in order to continue to make their money. So get off of that, and we'll deal with in more detail with next week's show when we talk about the economics. But you've been sold a raw deal. Sold a raw deal in the sense where as though you don't matter. And when we go back to that whole legacy media thing, I meant to intersect with when we was talking about the CNN, David Ellison, they're pro-Israel. They're big donors to Israel, and they are big donors to Trump. This is what fascism is. This is how you get to meet Dana Brash and Jake Tapper was giving Martian orders to keep their checks and to keep their jobs.
Yep.
See, CNN is now going to become another leg of the fascism, just like CBS has become. You look at CNN, it's nothing more than it's going to be another leg of Fox News and Newsmax or News Nation, whatever it is, that and other. Then the craziest thing is if MS Now had any balls, they will go hard left and actually tell the truth. But they're corporate too. And they scared. That's why you got to get your news from independent media. It's people, and make sure when you go to, they're not influencers. They are actually people that were in me. When I say the Midas touch, those were people that's with that group, that people like, they have true blue journalists that left legacy media because people like Katie Fang that left MSNBC because she's seen what was going on. Joy Reid, they want you to think that Joy Reid was let go at MSNBC because of ratings. She had great ratings. It's because she didn't fall in line. And she didn't fall in line, and she was saying what she wanted, the truth about this administration. Ultimately, truth tellers get weeded out from the machine because they don't want any pushback. No. You got anything to end with? Anything? Any of your parting shot? Hill said what he said.
I have two things. One thing I want to touch
Okay.
on, and then just touch on briefly, and then another thing. Like you had mentioned something about Zoran Mamdani, and I wanted to touch on something that recently he had just came out with, along with the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, who's running for re-election. So she's up for re-election as governor of the state. They just revealed that they're going to enact a pied-à-terre tax in New York City on properties that are worth over $5 million. So what these are second homes. So billionaires who own second homes in New York City that are valued over $5 million. That's who this tax is going to affect. So they announced it. And this is big because, again, Zoran, he ran as a democratic socialist. And one of the things that he ran on is that we're going to tax the rich because they continue to receive all the benefits of living in the city, while, people who actually live here and make the city what it is, give it culture, give it life, work at the restaurants, they work in the buildings. They make the city run. It's getting harder and harder for them and for us to afford to live here in the city. And oh, am I still here? Oh, okay. I think I lost connection for a second.
You lost the
Sorry about
connection. Well, go ahead. Go ahead. You
Yeah,
lost
okay,
connection.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, but one of the things that he's doing again is saying, like, we are going to tax the rich, and we're going to especially coming off the heels of announcing that the city is in a deficit, so they have about $5 billion that they need to come up with to balance the budget. And again, this tax is only going to affect billionaires. Imagine again, how many people can walk into a room where everyone in the room is someone that they know. Ask the question of, hey, do you own a second home that's worth $5 million? How many people are going to raise their hand? Most people don't know anyone, and they themselves do not have the amount of money that would afford them the luxury of owning a second home that is worth $5 million. This tax is expected to generate at least or at most about $500 million in revenue that's going to be collected from about 13,000 homes in New York City. But the comptroller does expect that the revenues could be reduced to about 340 to 380 million dollars, because some people are just going to choose to, like whatever, like rent their apartments or whatever the case is, or just choose to not own the home anymore. But a very limited amount of people, because again, when you're talking about billionaires, a tax on a $5 million home or above, like, it's not going to affect them. So honestly, it'll be kind of performative for them at that kind of rate to leave the city. And that's something that people complained about when he was elected. It's like, oh, people are going to leave the city. They're going to flee New York City. It's going to be a max exodus of who? Other people that can already afford to live here. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And it didn't happen. He's been he's been mayor of the city for about 3 months now, almost 4 months now. He's doing such a great job. Just wanted to highlight that. But one of the things I do want to end on, and this is something I do want to touch on in a longer conversation, but is prediction markets and their presence everywhere. They are literally all over the place. You can't turn on the TV. You can't go on any kind of social media without seeing prediction markets, whether it be Polymarket, Kalshi, or, and it's absolutely gross how intertwined it is with just like with media. Like you can see like you watch a basketball game, and not even just the prediction markets, but also with the sports books, in these online sports books. They're all over the place. Um, Anchors talking about, oh, we're putting together a parlay. These are the picks that we have for tonight. You can literally bet on anything with these prediction markets. You can bet on what is Trump going to say in his State of the Union speech. You can bet on what's going to be said in a monologue at an award show. You can bet on the temperature of any city around the world. How much rainfall is there going to be within a single month? You can bet on anything. And what that does is it leads it up to manipulation. It's very rife for insider trading. And that's exactly what's happening. You can affect the outcomes because how these prediction markets are able to continue to function all around the country, even in states where gambling and like sports gambling or online it's not legal, is because they're not casinos. They don't operate as like books. What they say is they are future prediction markets. So that's how they operate like that. You're betting on future events, which again leads it open to manipulation, because if you're trading on what is Trump going to say in his speech, if you're a speech writer, if you're someone in the Republican Party, like, oh, let me talk to someone, get my hands on his speech tonight. Let me see what he's going to say. And you can put a whole bunch of money on Yeah, Trump's going to say Sleepy Joe. Trump's going to say radical left, whatever the case is. A couple months ago, when um, Donald Trump decided to invade Venezuela and kidnap Nicolas Maduro, right before, the night before, somebody placed a $33,000 bet that that was going to happen. Just like that, that the U.S. was going to invade Venezuela. Turns out it was someone within the military that had knowledge of what was going to happen. This happens all the time. This goes in with the insider trading that happens with the sports book with, what was it, John Tate Porter and with Terry Rozier. It is open for people to try to get rich off of it and to manipulate it. And it's just gross again how prevalent and how all over the place it is. You can't go anywhere again without seeing Kalshi presented by Kalshi or Polymarket, FanDuel, DraftKings. It's all over the place. And what's even worse is there's people that have gambling addictions. And it's one thing when you had to get in the car, drive down to the casino, when you had to, or get on the bus, get on the train, go to the casino. It's another thing when all you have to do is go in your pocket and get on this thing and do it. It's ruining lives, and also it's unfair. It's unfair, and where is Congress to step in, or where are the state legislatures to step in and say, no, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? And I really wanted to highlight this because actually today the Senate passed a resolution that bans senators and their staff members from being able to trade on prediction markets. Bernie Moreno, he's a Republican senator from Ohio. He introduced the resolution and it passed unanimously in the Senate. So senators aren't going to be able to trade on prediction markets. But I mean, of course they shouldn't be able to do that. And again, this is just like a resolution. So it's kind of just like, hey, like we promise not to do it, but it's not an actual like ban, like they still potentially could do it. It's just saying in writing and just like saying, hey, well, we won't. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight that. And again, I do want to further touch on, prediction markets and the insider trading that's associated with that in another show.
Yeah, that's a whole subject in itself. And
Yeah.
that resolution, like you said, is just fodder. It's just there. Um, it's just say, hey, we said we're not going to do it, but it's not it's not a law. It's not an
Hmm.
actual rule. And even if it is broke, if it is a rule or becomes a rule, then it's still just a procedure. So whereas though they'll still make the money, and then they may wind up. One of the things that they should do that they're talking about doing is if a person, a congressperson, because we have a lot of resignations and people trying to get booted out of Congress because of their wrongdoing. They
Hmm.
wanted to make it where as though they will not be able to collect their congressional pension. People that are resigning and that have like some point of tenure, if you've been in there five, you still receive your pension, and they want to take that away. So they're trying to pass that, which is actually a good idea
Hmm.
because it's just like I said earlier. These people become your representatives, and they become millionaires from being in office. That is part of the reason why they do not want to leave office because they're constantly getting money from it. So, but like you said, and I'm glad you did bring up the Polymark and Costco because I did want to touch on that because that's been running rampant.
Yeah.
Not even to mention, and with full disclosure, I'm a gambler. I've been a gambler for years. I, but I'm the gambler, whereas though I'm not. running around for a fix. You know, it's not the rent money not getting touched and things like that. It's one of my I sports gamble. I love to do that, but it can be effective and very detrimental to people that don't know how to control it. And the issue that I have with it is I think gambling should be treated like alcohol and tobacco, whereas though you can't have the commercial and it's just left and right on television because they're doing is bringing in younger and more younger people and then even with they have to tighten up the rules whereas though they verify your identity and your age because it can be very detrimental if you're not mentally uh there and like advanced enough to know like just like what happened was just in the news the quarterback the college quarterback for he played at Indiana but I think he's Texas Tech was that supposed to say Texas Tech the quarterback is going to Gamblers Anonymous. I forget his name. It just happened a couple of days ago. He was placing thousands of bets, to the point where as though he was betting on balls and strikes.
Man,
Like, yeah.
that
Um,
bad.
and because, and again, this is a person. He was a quarterback, so with NIL, he was getting. I think he was getting like 5 million. He was getting paid like $5 million, and he was gambling. But yeah, he was placing thousands of bets a day. But if you just sit there on the game, just betting balls and
Yeah,
what the next pitch was going to be. Now, these is parts of the market that just are ridiculous. Like seriously, you can bet on the next pitch, you know. And it's and what I was explaining to what I was explaining to my girlfriend about because she doesn't know anything about gambling or anything like that. I said the issue is if you're good at it, they ban you.
yep.
It's been several times that I've been on a hot streak for a day and I was up a few $100 and constantly just because I play small bet and I'm just flipping it, and I don't want 178 bets in a row. And then when I went to go place the next one, it blocked me. It wouldn't allow me to place a bet. It was frozen. The site just and then I couldn't place a bet for the entire day or the next day because, or if I had certain amount of bets sitting out there that I could win X amount of money, they freeze. So it's like it's not designed for you to beat the house,
Yeah.
and when you can, they shut you out. What I wanted to touch on is something because we're at that spot. So my part is shot is something that's really important, and you would know this because it's something that I constantly always preach about throughout the time that you know you've been around. um, the black woman, black women are near and dear to my heart. Anybody that knows me, I constantly would say that I was raised by women. I'm going to be 53 years old, and I often talk to my mother on a regular basis, several times a week. And My mother is, I still call my mother mama. That's my mom. I had four aunts that was crucial in my life, black women, and I had a grandmother that helped raise. And I've always had a problem with the way society has treated black women because, in my eyes, black women have always been the strongest people that I have run across. And one of the things that I had an issue when we talked about Kamala Harris and called her Kamala and disrespected her record and disrespected her education, and by calling her low IQ or not qualified, is black women are the most qualified people to run anything. They run they ran your household and they raised your babies when you refused to. They always, no matter what, when they had children, they put their children first. And when they were unable to get formally educated, they learned how to educate themselves and they learned how to read and write. Right now, because since the civil rights movement and all the legislation, the black woman is the most educated, the most educated growing population in this country in the last 30 years. Black women went from holding degrees at as a 14% rate to presently now 38% of black women in America hold higher education degrees. They outpace black men by 60%. It was a black woman that came up with laser eye surgery. It was a black woman that made it possible for this country to go to the moon. They did the math. They were the math. They did.
So I've run across my life on a daily basis with the job that I work with in corporate America. The majority of women that hold high vice presidents and managing directors and high management positions are black women. I refuse to allow this DEI and this culture to allow the belief that mediocre, half-ass white men that have constantly got a leg up just because the way that they look and who they know succeeds over a highly qualified, educated, strong black woman. And the fact of the matter is, black women always know what's right. Black women are the backbone of the Democratic Party. Black women have often took up the mantle for everybody's rights if you are marginalized. So I need people, especially if you're a person of color, to not feed into this, because guess what? 9 times out of 10, you was raised by a strong mama. If you wasn't raised by your strong mama, you was raised by your strong grandmama. And that woman was black. And she gave you the tools of understanding how to maneuver in this life. So don't allow this society or anybody to disrespect a black woman as a whole. With that, you're gonna end it for this week. And as our logo said, progress is a state of mind, and it's time for you people to get your mind right. You know, and if you can, call your black mama and tell us, or your grandmama and tell them thank you. All right, son, it's been wonderful.
Always a pleasure.
We figure out something to bitch about next week.
I'm sure it'd be easy. It'd be a lot.
It'd be pretty easy. All right. Oh, Sixers game is on. Gotta go see what they doing.
Game 7. We're gonna see. Also, I was gonna jokingly say, before we go, jokingly, do you have any thoughts on this Mike Vrabel, Diana Russini situation?
What's my thoughts?
Yes.
My thoughts is this is a Mike Vrabel story, and they turned it into a Diana Russini story. And the simple fact of the matter is, she gave up her job, and he is still in a high position because he's a man. And he is as liable to whatever situation they've had. And now they're doing some more digging, and
it's getting a lot worse.
It's a lot of things. My thing ultimately is that's a personal thing because it's between them and their spouses. But the evidence and the little stuff that's been coming out has been saying this has been an ongoing some type of. I don't know if it's inappropriate and to the point where it crossed the line, but they had some type of relationship. And I can see why the NFL don't want to get involved, but the fact of the matter is that woman has been catching hell and he has not. And the only reason why those pictures were being taken was because they recognized him. They didn't know who she was.
Yeah.
But as usual, this patriarchy has made it, they done shitted on the woman. Why? What's your views on it?
No, honestly, the exact same thing. And it was while like she's lost her job, and like she's like the one that's like under attack. But like, what about him? You know, because he's the dominant one in the situation. He's the prominent one. The large name. And like you said, this is all happening because people recognized him. They've had these photos for years, and they've been sitting on them for like years. And then it was like once one domino fell, then it was like, okay, wait a minute. Well, I kind of remember seeing him at this place years ago. Let me look at it. Oh shoot, that's her right there. And then going in and looking at different tweets from her, or comments that he's made, or like the reporting or that she's had on the Titans or on the Patriots once he went over there. Just everything going together, and it's like, okay, but this is the both of them. So why is it, and he just came out, it was like right before the draft, and was like, yeah, I'm just not going to be here day 3 of the draft. I'm going to go, get counseling or whatever. Okay, is that like your punishment or whatever? Like, nothing from the Patriots, nothing from the league. And, we don't even have to get into what some other people are saying in terms of like potential, like, tampering that might have been going on, or whatever the case is, because with him, or whatever, feeding information to the media or to other teams or whatever the case is. Not even again and all that, but I do just think it's wild that it seems like all of the focus has been on Diana Russini, and it's just been Mike Vrabel just happens to be a part of the situation. But just interested, so I just wanted to see what you thought about it.
It's trash. The patriarchy is real.
Yeah.
They done did so much digging now into their Spotify accounts with then they even came down to the point of where as though he named her firstborn son Michael.
Yeah.
So it's just trash, and I don't like to get into gossip per se, but it makes me upset that she resigned. And I mean, I understand why she did, because it makes her hard for her to do her job. But the fact of the matter is that men in that business have relationships with these coaches and these administrators, and to the point where as though several years ago, Adam Schefter got into some problems because he actually sent a article that he was going to write about a specific, and he sent it to the general manager to read first to see if it was okay. No one said anything about, like, for instance, Jay Glazer had a party for the 28 coaches. You know, these people, it's a relationship business. But of course, because it's a woman, they often think that she's not qualified, and they always throw that women must be sleeping around in order to. They said that about Kamala Harris. They tried to do that about Kamala Harris.
Yep.
That the only way they can get somewhere is by sleeping around, because they don't have the capacity to believe that a woman is actually capable of doing the stuff that you do.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this: if we had more women in prominent positions and actually running organizations and countries, we wouldn't be in the shit that we are, because they know how to, they think instead of react. But that's a whole nother thing. But what you expect? The owner was getting $100 massages, and the NFL didn't do nothing about that, about him getting beat off in a Miami massage parlor. So sometimes, if you're the right complexion and you got some money and you got some power, the rules don't apply to you.
Of course not. What a world.
All right. But until next week, keep on thinking and do some research. Stay away from legacy media.
Retweet.
Yeah, right. Have a good night.